So like vaguely, if you can describe maybe like one problem statement that you have worked on, let's say.
Okay.
Something that,
So the example I kind of started with earlier probably is a good one. So one of my clients had a sudden spike in the number of messages that they get. So this is a insurance company, and so the message that they get, the ones that I'm talking about, is from their hospitals and the other clinics that actually file claims, right? And so there was a sudden spike in the number of messages that they sent, and let's say assume that the company that my client is, let's say they have 10 people to respond to these messages. It's a much more bigger company, but 10 people to respond to these messages, and suddenly these messages, they increase in volume. And since the company itself is expanding, they expect that the volume is not going to come down, but it's probably going to keep going up. And so one potential solution, if you look at these messages, many of them are about a specific kind of request. Or so I'd say an example, like if you are, let's say there's this entrance exam that got over and people are sending a bunch of messages to a certain an institution to get what their results were, or some such thing, right? And so if you can parse through that message to understand that the specific question is about a very specific task, then you can map that kind of questions into a pipeline that you can respond with meaningfully, right? So if you have the ID of a person, you have the content of what their message is. So this was more or less an NLP problem where you'd have to understand entities from a given text, and then be sure that there's only a certain number of things asked and you can appropriately answer to them. And then being able to send a response which addresses that problem. And then this might be a small chunk of your whole volume. You might have to iteratively do a lot of these things to find out, are there other categories which you can take together and address as a group. And so you just want to be sure if you're responding, you respond to the right one, but otherwise you can redirect it to the human. So that was one project that I recently worked on.
Their problem basically was that they were getting unusually high number of messages, and they were not able to handle that with their current manpower.
Correct. And they were expecting that it's not going to go down. It's not like a spurious spike and then going back to normal. And they kind of saw that there was some reason why it would keep going up.
Right. So rather than analyzing the reason, this is more about how do you handle these messages and how do you automate the replies and
yes.
So
let's say the client is expanding, right? So they have acquired a few other additional smaller things, and so they know why it's increasing, but right now I don't have
So this is about handling those unusual volumes.
Yes.
Great.